recently brought you an exclusive interview related to the case of serial killer John Wayne Gacy. For decades, Sherry Marino had doubts that the body in her son's grave was actually her son Michael at all.
Recently, DNA results showed her hunch was right. Now the investigation begins into what happened. WGN's Larry Potash picks up the story.
We have done stories about witnesses who say Gacy had accomplices and possibly more victims. Well, Mrs. Marino would like to obtain documents that could confirm whether these suspicions are true, because it could provide answers about what happened to her son.
I would do anything to have him.
For decades, Sherry Marino has lived in the Uptown neighborhood, and since 1976, she's been waiting for her son Michael to come home.
When I say my prayers first thing in the morning, last thing at night, I say, please, Lord, take me, let my son live.
Michael was 14 when he disappeared from the Lakeview neighborhood. Here's his missing persons report. Information is deleted. Attorney Steve Becker would like to see the original to see if it holds any clues. For decades, authorities listed Michael as one of the 33 young men and boys Gacy murdered. But recent DNA tests showed the body under Michael's tombstone was not his.
We believe that the authorities are trying to maintain this Gacy mythos because there's a lot of people who their careers have been built on this case. They don't want to admit that any mistakes were made.
Could Mrs. Marino's DNA match one of the other victims? 7 of them remain unidentified. Becker hopes to compare Mrs. Marino's DNA to all of Gacy's victims. In the meantime, new clues reveal a possible connection to a national sex trafficking operation. Michael Marino was last seen in 1976 near here at Clark and Diversey. Just a few blocks from here lived a man who sold boys as sex slaves to men around the country. John Norman operated in Dallas. When he was arrested in 1973, police found 30,000 index cards with names of men who paid for sex with boys. According to media reports, a number of Norman's clients were prominent people and some federal employees in Washington. But the list is gone. Officials were unable to explain why the list was destroyed. Norman resurfaced in Illinois, where he was charged with molesting 8 boys in Homewood. But it didn't stop his operation. His Delta Project was born in Cook County Jail. Norman used the jail's printing facilities to send out newsletters about his sex trafficking ring. After he was released on parole, he moved to Chicago near the 700 block of Wrightwood, just blocks from where Michael Marino disappeared.
They are trying to promote the fact that they prosecuted the case properly with Gacy as a sole serial killer. That, in my opinion, is absolutely preposterous. Gacy was working with accomplices, and now we have evidence to show that actually Gacy was connected with this nationwide human trafficking ring that operated right here out of Chicago.
Here is evidence of a Gacy connection to John Norman's Delta Project. Norman's partner was this man, Philip Paskey. As these records show, Paskey also worked for John Wayne Gacy. When Gacy was in prison, he wrote this note with details about Paskey. He writes Paskey was dangerous and pimps girls, boys for sex or movies.
I don't recall ever having seen this. It appears to be a pay stub, and I do recognize Gacy's signature up there.
Terry Sullivan was the prosecutor in the John Wayne Gacy case. Did that not raise any red flags at the time?
No, it raised no red flags at the time. The fact that he was working for Gacy, we apparently didn't know at that time. The fact that there is a link to somebody who was involved in these traffickings, I think opens up something that actually has to have a truck driven through it to see where it ends up.
After a series of Chicago Tribune stories about the sex trafficking ring, Congress investigated in 1977, just a year before Gacy was arrested. How could authorities miss a possible connection between a national sex trafficking ring and the murders of 33 young men and boys?
That is a total mystery to me. To me, the state should have raised this as a pivotal issue in the Gacy case, because the question is how many bodies ended up in Gacy's cellar that were from Norman's trafficking ring.
Doesn't surprise me that somebody could have missed a story that happened that was exposed the year before that.
They were overwhelmed.
Completely, we were overwhelmed. You have to remember it was a different age. when you did not have the computer aspects. But I can't believe sitting here that it has taken all those years now to finally put some sort of a connection to it that may possibly open up a whole new ballgame.
In Norman's apartment, investigators found pink index cards with 5,000 to as many as 100,000 names and addresses, names of customers, and the boys pimped out to them. Could Michael Marino's name be on the sex trafficking list? Homewood police now say they looked for the index card files and no records match. Like in Texas, it seems the list from Illinois has disappeared too.
I am wondering if there were names of Chicago politicians or high-ranking Illinois politicians that were on that list, and that's why this whole aspect of the Gacy case was suppressed.
A man with connections to a serial killer and a sex trafficker. Paschke, Gacy, Norman. Becker continues searching for missing documents to definitively prove a connection between the Delta Project and the killer clown to help end a mother's painful search for her son.
I would do anything, anything to have him. Just so I get to hold him one more time and tell him that I love him and that I miss him behind words.
So far, no law enforcement agency has been able to find these Illinois lists to help Mrs. Marino. And Norman and Paschke are now deceased. Attorney Steve Becker will submit Mrs. Marino's DNA to a national database for missing persons to see if a match comes up now or sometime in the future.